What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Barrett, coming live to you from Peete County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding out about the untold stories behind scenes of a college coach, this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's college basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes in the life of a college basketball coach. Now, let's unmask them. Today's guest is a young assistant coach with a wealth of experience. It's amazing, like in the short stint, how much experience he does have, just from the knowledge standpoint of coaching. He's a former high school assistant coach, coached in the grassroots program as well. A bright basketball mind, one of the best young guys I've been around. I always say a kid with him, he has an old soul. I think that comes from his parents. He is a guy that's with a ton of knowledge, excellent talent evaluating, a tremendous teacher, a future star on the collegiate level, and he's a Memphis, Tennessee native. Always mess with him about that a little bit. Tim Peete. So before we bring Tim Peete on, read about his bio a little bit. Played at University of Tulsa for 4 years. Big contributor to that program. Played in 129 games. So he had an outstanding career. That's when I actually first ran across Tim Peete. And you know, to this day, I think highly of him tremendously. But as a player, we'll get into that later on. He kind of crushed me. Probably the worst loss I ever had in the history in my coaching career. So you know, I got a love-hate relationship with Tim. From there, after he finished playing, I had a chance to go back home and work as an assistant director with the MM33 grassroots program, which is presently known as Hoop City. He was there for a year, did some workouts while he was there, working out with some college and NBA guys as well. Then he became an assistant coach at Arlington High School. He spent a year as an assistant there before going on to UNC Greensboro in Greensboro, North Carolina, as a graduate assistant, where he got his master's degree. And then after 2 years of that place at UNCG, he goes on to Chipola College, where he was an assistant coach. So now he goes to the junior college ranks, probably where he built a lot of his name from being just a worker. He was there at Chipola for a year. And then he goes back to UNC Greensboro to become the director of player development. That's how much Wes Miller had thought of him and the staff and the whole program at UNCG. And then he goes out and he becomes a Division II coach. So he's been at a lot of levels. Missouri Western State University out in Missouri, where he spent 1 year. Did a great job. And that's when I actually got to know him last year during the pandemic. And then he's presently at Radford University, where he landed the job this spring. After spending 14 days at University of Tennessee Martin, he had a chance to work with some great guys. Darius Nichols, who's the head coach there, and Shane Nichols, who's Darius' brother, who's an assistant coach there. So I'm kind of happy for him getting with those guys. But I want to welcome to the show. I mean, this is one of the brightest, and he was one of the hottest assistant coach out this summer. Everyone wants to try to hire him. I want to welcome to the show, Tim Peete, man. How you doing, Tim?
Man, I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you putting me on. I mean, we talk about it all the time. So it's finally good to finally be, at the level to be on this show.
Well, look, man, we came here, and before we even talk about it, before we jump on, I know we're going to get unmasked. And I bring it up all the time we talk about it before we even get into it. Like, my first year, this is a welcome to Conference USA moment. Tim was a senior at University of Tulsa. My first year, we take over the program at Old Dominion, and we come in. We're playing well. Both teams are playing well. We hadn't neither team at peak, but we had started playing well. Came in with almost close records in conference play, and we're feeling very confident. And probably the worst ass whipping, yes, I'm gonna say it, that I've ever had in my career. We're down 20 at the half, and we're like, wow, there's no way that they could play this well in the second half. And not only did they play well, they played just as good, outscored us by 19 of that We ended up losing by 39, and I don't think I've ever lost. And so I say, when we have a love-hate relationship, I actually don't like him for having the worst loss as a collegiate coach, or even at high school level as well. But Tim, I mean, I can still remember that moment. You guys took off from that, and you had a great year the rest of the year. You win Conference USA, you go to the NCAA tournament, and Coach Manning got a chance to get his first time going to the NCAA tournament as a head coach. So, kudos to you guys, even though, 7 years ago, I probably hated you that day, but I still, I'm happy for you and all the success you have.
No, I appreciate it, man. It's crazy how I think we just lost UAB the week before that at home, and Coach Manning, he didn't flinch on us, and he just kind of told us to just stay locked in. And the next thing you know, we're up 20, and I'm in the locker room screaming at Shaq Harrison, James Woodard, and the young guys, we're going to keep going. And that thing, those guys, the switch clicked for those guys, and those guys, even after I graduated, they went to the American, won 10 around the conference, and James Woodard and Shaq Harrison, I think probably if not argued, to be the first or second best backcourt ever playing at their school. Not biased because I played with them, but you talk about numbers and what they did, and games started together, and they were roommates, and what they're doing now as pros. I give those guys their flowers right now, because without those two guys believing in me and as a teammate, that's kind of how it sparked for me start coaching with those guys, to be honest.
Yeah, that team was pretty special, and you could see it as the year went on. But look, man, let's go ahead and get unmasked and get right to it. First question I like to ask: you were, you thrown in, and you were graduate assistant, so you worked with some really good guys at UNCG. And so you've always been a student of the game. You've always learning. You're always reaching out and talking to people. So even though you hear it from those guys and you understand it, or you think you understand it, talk about, because there's no handbook, man, to being a college coach. Tell me about the first day, first week, first month, after things are done with human resources or orientation. Talk about that situation, especially when no one gives you direction. You went to the junior college route first, then you go to Division II. You can talk about any one of those stops, or you can mention all of them if you want to. Talk about that, when no one actually just gives you guidance.
I think the best part about it, it's not just they're not giving guidance, but I played for two different head coaches, so I have perspective, which helped. But at the same time, you get thrown into the fire because they think that you can handle it, and they want to see how you handle the situation. My first day at Greensboro, Deontay Baldwin, he has a broken right hand, and he works out twice a day, and it's with me, and he can't do anything with his left hand. And it's the same thing when you go to Chipola. You have Batuma Baruti, a transfer from Washington, and he's in the middle of nowhere, Florida. He's never been there. And I'm able to build this sweat equity with this kid through the gym. We're walking up and down the hill, we're going to dinner, and he had a chance to go play at the next level. I think that with these kids nowadays, and I don't think it's changed. I think sweat equity with those guys as much as you can, especially when you're a GA, you can learn as much as you can learn those guys, not just the basketball player, but the person. And I think once those guys trust you and you start to understand the message that each coach you're working for, you can start sprinkling in the verbiage and those messages to those guys, and you can subliminally brainwash them to believe in you and that head coach, and those guys can start seeing some success on and off the court and in their life. Because at the end of the day, we all want to win. We all want to see these guys become great people out here in the society. We all want to see them win, because those guys' wins are essentially our wins, So that's been the biggest thing I take everywhere I go. Just try to build as much sweat equity with those guys as possible, because those guys tell you stories when they believe in you, that they start trusting you and start telling you things about themselves.
Man, that's actually awesome what you're saying, because that's what I think. You younger guys coming into the business now, we were so gung-ho on recruiting, and once the kid gets there, you forget all about them a little bit, and you're recruiting the next player like, no, you have to take care of the kids that you have that's in house first. Those are the most important people. So I think guys like you are understanding that, and it's big for the profession, because these young men who are coming in, that's what they need. They need to know that someone cares. You know, they're just not recruiting them to be recruiting them, or they're recruiting over top of them. And you see the transfer portal so high because that's what kids don't feel. They don't feel that anymore. And I think what you said is tremendous. Like the sweat equity, putting it in with these kids and having them understand, like, yo, man, I'm here for you. You know, I'm not worried about the next guy. I'm worried about you right here and how important you are. Yeah. I think that's tremendous, you know, going forward. And I know a lot of people can learn from that.
Yeah, I learned that from Coach Wojcik. Yeah, I learned that from Coach Wojcik. You know, it's funny, you know, like a lot of guys, he had 3 pros that was there in the time him being there, but at the same time, you had to pass his test, then you had to pass the assistant's test, but then when you come play with us, you had to pass our test. In his mind, that was the most important test. And if you didn't pass our test, he would ask us, and we would genuinely tell you what we thought. If we can see ourselves playing with him, hanging with him, and if you didn't pass, it's an automatic scratch, because at the end of the day, that's most important. We had to get along, and I kind of take that as I go. I might like a kid. I definitely recruit from who my head coach, who I think can play for my head coach, and the guy that I work for. But at the same time, I look at the personality. I think the personality doesn't blame the guys that they're playing with. It's a failure. It's going to be a failure for that kid and for us. And I think that I want to be around guys that have fun. And I want my guys to be around somebody that likes to have fun as well.
Awesome. Well, look, the next question, it's funny you talk about recruiting. And I always say recruiting is the lifeline of college athletics. You know, it doesn't matter what sport it is. You have to recruit good players if you want to be successful. You have to recruit good people if you want to be successful. You have to recruit good students. And good students doesn't always mean they have to be an A student or a B student. Like, it has to be someone that cares about getting a college degree, about going to class, doing the right things. Those are the people you want in your program, because if you don't have to worry about, you know, them being a good player, being in the gym, them going to class, them doing all the right things, you don't have to worry about that. That's less stress on you. Talk about your best and worst recruiting stories you've had. Now, you've been at the junior college rank. I mean, you've been at Division. Now you're at Division I. Like, I'm sure you got something. We don't have to name names. Names is always good sometimes, but talk about your best and worst recruiting stories.
I would name that. I'm gonna name a few names because to me it's funny, because like it was my first time I got baptized into this, man. And it was my fault, but it wasn't my fault. You know, I was trying to throw subliminal. I wasn't adamant enough about and passionate enough as I know now, trying to fight for what I wanted to happen. I remember when I first get the job at Chipotle, and we're in need of a point guard. And I know before a few other people knew that Javion Hamlet was going back JUCO. And if anybody knows where Javion Hamlet's from, he's from my neighborhood. So in my mind, I've been talking to him since I was in college. You know, I'm always.
Hold on, I'm gonna say this. That's the kid that ended up in North Texas?
Correct.
Okay.
But at the same time, you know, he knows, and you know, of course he entertains me. He calls me his big brother, and out of respect, he does entertain it. And that's when I learned that sometimes you gotta dig a little deeper in recruiting. So my head coach now that's at Buffalo, Brandon Foley, I was already talking to him, and he was interested. And I get to campus in Florida, and Foley's just like, you know, let's just drive to Memphis and go see the kid, man. You know, like, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. You know, I'm not too confident about it. But as a head coach, you know, when head coaches are passionate and they believe in something, you just gotta go with it. And so I called JV. I'm like, yo, we're gonna be here tomorrow. See you, watch you work out, talk, you know, meet your mom, meet your dad, you know, catch up and see how everything goes. So we drive from Florida to Memphis in one night. So I'm at my parents' house, and Coach Fox is on my parents' couch, and we wake up and go watch JV work out. But when we pull up, it's another junior college there. And I'm fine with that. Like, I'm okay with that. And the funny thing about it is I laugh at it because it didn't hurt my feelings. I got to go home to see my parents. I don't see them enough. And I get a call, man, Javion's already going to Northwest Florida, which is our route. And so it's at the same time, I figure out, I didn't do my research. I didn't dig a little deeper about who was really helping the kid, who had his ear. Because I knew he was gonna make his own decision, but who had his ear? At the same time, me and Foley laugh at it, and at the same time, we competed in the same league. The kid, to me, I think made the right decision because it worked out for him. Was a pretty really good player at Northwest Florida, and I'm going North Texas, and it's so funny now we can go back and laugh at it because all the people that had his ear, I had all those people's numbers in my phone, and at the same time, man, it's like I could have dug a little deeper and not just thinking that my relationship with this kid because he saw me play and he used to give me high fives and I used to work him out thinking that that's all I needed to get the kid done. And I laugh at it because I think that was a rookie mistake on me. And at the same time, I wish him nothing but the best. And I think it worked out for both of us, to be honest. He taught me a lesson and I think I taught him a lesson about communicating because at the same time, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. You telling me no.
That's pretty good, man. And that's what I'm saying. That's a lesson learned. And you teaching these young guys the same thing. Like that's the huge thing. Is like you're never gonna be, and you don't burn bridges. Like I don't say burn bridges, but you never know about a relationship later on. Like you can't be mad because he didn't come to you. Like you've already had a relationship, so that's actually
I went to go watch him play. Like when I was in Greensboro, I watched him play against North Texas and Charlotte when they won the league, man. Like that's I know him too long in my life to think that one situation gonna make me not want him to be successful. So
awesome stuff, man. Well, look, we know you're a young guy, and this is the time when a lot of your friends are gonna start getting married, or your friends want to take vacations, and you got family that want to see you because probably since you were 13 or 14. I know I went through it. I mean, I looked at one time, I hadn't been to a family Thanksgiving or any of that stuff for like 19, 20 years. And you get caught up in that. But what did you have to sacrifice, or what have you sacrificed to achieve your current level of success? Because I don't think a lot of people understand what you have to give up or sacrifice to be in this profession.
Yeah. I mean, the obvious answer is always family. I think that's obvious, but at the same time, I think I had to sacrifice my personal growth a lot, like my personal growth, like outside of what I do professionally. It took me a while to start trying to balance it. My parents did a really good job of trying to keep me and my sister close, but I was fortunate enough when my parents, I had some family things going on. I worked for some really good people that allowed me to go do that because that was important to me. I knew that was important to me. But at the same time, I think my personal growth in the sense of learning how to do my own taxes, learning how to do my own, like getting somebody to help me to understand that I can get a tax break on my mileage. Learning that I can start saving some money in a different fund that I can't touch because I was so locked in on trying to be where I wanted to be in this profession. I think personal growth on and off the court kind of slowed down for me once I got into the profession because I just wanted to win and see guys get to where they want to get to, and next thing you know is I have a credit card and I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta pay it. Like just forgetting things like that as a young guy. And understanding that, man, if people out here want me to be successful, I gotta give those people some love as well. Even if it's for half a day or just a phone call, just making sure I pick up the phone and do that type of stuff, man. I really try to cherish that more so than anything. Trying to take care of the people that are the reason I'm here.
Awesome stuff, man. Awesome man. We talk about scouting, and I know how. And I'm gonna say meticulous because you're on scout. Like that's one thing I think you are really strong at that. We've had, and I mean, and I'm gonna ask you about your best and worst scout report. Like it was even just during the season last year. Like I mean, Tim Peete knew he could if it was 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Didn't matter. He's an hour behind me. He'll reach out. What do you think about this? So I know he was always looking at film. We're looking at film together. at 2-3 o'clock in the morning and studying. So I know how you're dedicated, how much you want to win, how much time you put into it. Talk about your best and worst scouting reports you may have had over the year. Where coaches, they want certain things, so you definitely got to have them. But there's some things sometimes you're like, Coach, I think we should do this or don't do that. Or you're telling him this kid is he's struggling shooting. He makes a couple threes. Coach looking at you all crazy. Like you said he couldn't shoot. I said, no, I said he was struggling. Talk about your best and worst scout reports you may have had, over the years in your young career so far.
Yeah, I honestly think, first of all, I don't know, I think it's for every coach. When you do your job and you can come out of a timeout, out of an ATO, and you can call that play out or that out of bounds under, or something that they run and your guys remember it and they stop it, there's no better feeling. There's no better feeling than when that happens and your guys get that stop from listening to something that you watched over and over again because the trust is there. I think one of my best scouts was against my former coach from Tulsa, Coach Brett Ballard, that's at Washburn now. It was a really intense game, and I kind of remembered some things that he used to say in timing of how to get his team going, and I called one of his backdoor plays out. And also, I've kind of gotten to the point to understand that I don't yell on game days, it's because I think that everything's already done by the time those guys get to shooting around and just getting those guys ready. But my worst scout, been so many. I think my worst scout was probably my first scout, honestly, because I didn't know that I was in, of course, at Chipola, and I tried to be so detailed, understand that these guys don't care about that stuff. And I'm not giving them the tools that they need to be successful. I'm making them robots. And we end up winning. Of course, we end up winning, but at the same time, our guys, it didn't come to anything I did. It came to them I literally balled the scout up and threw it away in their face and just told them to play harder. And that thing, they're blowing screens up, they're getting loose balls. At the end of the day, you get guys to do that type of stuff, you take away a lot of things you scout out anyways, especially at that level more so. But at the same time, I do know now that you start kind of teaching those things to get their mind a little stronger in the summer. So that way, if their mind's stronger in the summer, it makes the scouting part to be able to hold some stuff in their brain during the games as well when the season comes.
You're so correct on that. And another thing, I'm just listening to you, and you're right. You can't give them too much information. You got to give them enough, because you can give them all the information you want, and you thinking it's all, as much as the more I give them, the better they're going to be. No, less is more a lot of times in this business, because they understand. They have so much stuff going on. That's what we forget. They got classes, they got something going on in their life. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we don't know about. So if you're giving them too much, this brain overload, and they're not as successful. But right, you got to give them enough. You got to find a fine line.
And every team is different.
To understand.
Every team is different. Year by year, every team is different.
You're so correct. I got to talk about your young career, how you moved and progressed. And I know. I sit here, man. I probably brag about you probably more than anybody I've ever bragged about, just because I kind of see some stuff, and you're doing it the right way, the relationships you're building, and you do the right thing. I'm gonna give you a compliment. There was a young man who's a mutual friend of ours. He said, "Man, I knew Tim Peete was special," and I was like, "Huh?" And he was like, "Tim Peete called me. They're on the road. You called him and said, 'Hey, man, I'm stopping by and getting something to eat. You want something, right?'" And to him, that was impressive. He was like, he gets it. He don't work for me or any of that stuff, but he was getting something to eat. Y'all were going to the same gym. You reached out to him. And this is a guy who's been in the business for 12 to 15 years. And he was like, this is why he's going to make it. And I thought, and then he was so impressed. And I was like, man, I brag about that dude every day, because he does get it. He does understand. But I'm going to ask you this, though. What's the biggest challenge you think you've experienced since you become a college coach? Because you was a player, you were at a high level. but what's the biggest challenge you've seen or experienced since you've been a coach? And it may not been a huge challenge, like, yeah, you haven't been fired or any of that stuff yet, but it's still like anything that could be small. What's the biggest challenge you've had?
I mean, to be honest, the two biggest challenges for me, for one, like I don't think I was a great player individually, but I do think I ride with pride that I was a great teammate. So I do. It was hard for me to have to be separate from like being around guys that was about themselves, because like I said, I played for a guy that was non-existent. That was a non-negotiable. I played with two guys that was a non-negotiable. So going to different levels and different places of trying to separate what my thoughts was of what I had when I had success as a teammate, as a player, and as a team, separating that with these guys of today's game, and allowing them to be them and let them learn the way they learn, and they didn't learn how I learned. So just not trying to put my expectations on them, but just trying to get them to where my expectations are, and not let them know that, and not get frustrated by it. And then two was trying to get rid of stigmatism of a player. Cause like you said, I don't think I was a good player, but since you played, you would love to have a guy that was a glue guy that helped you win games. Like as a coaching side, you think that guy was a pretty good player. But at the same time, I was a spoiled college basketball athlete. And I think I deserved my time that I had to be able to be spoiled. But I had, like I said, I had great parents and great family and great coaches that, they did take care of me, but it wasn't like I just got it because they gave it to me. Everything I got, I earned it. And I was raised that way. But breaking the stigmatism of how some people think former players are, lazy or not about the team or stuck in themselves. I just wanted to break that trend, and that I was fortunate enough to be a GA with another former player, and that's what we all said every day. And when we got tired or we got frustrated with where we were, how we've been in this business the last 4, 5, 6 years, we always say that we're breaking stigmatism of former players to help other former players make it easier for somebody to hire one of those guys, because I think that as far as a former player, you have something, and it might be knowledge, it might be experience, it might just being able to have an ear. You've been in those guys' shoes, and I think they just want to break the stigmatism of us not being able to go to the other side. I just want to break that and have an opportunity to keep former players to want to be able to be involved with the game, because the game's been so good to me and so many other people.
No, pretty good stuff. And you're not gonna say it like you don't, like, you were a good player. Like, I know he's a tomboy as he want to be. You don't play in 129 Division I basketball games if you're not a good player. But
I'm
I
gonna
like
say
to
this: stat. Like, look, some people out here stats don't lie. They just go off stats. I wasn't a good player, but
you a
I would
great
go off my defensive efficiency rating. I would have been a really good player.
Hey, 129 games means coach loved you. He trusted you. You were on the floor to help win games. That's a huge thing. That's what you want more than anything. Do you ever find that there are things about you that people misunderstand? I think, like, a lot of times, you work your ass off. I know that for a fact. I know that. You also are a guy who, you have the great smile, and, like, everyone loves you because you do things the right way. But do you think that there are things about you that people misunderstand? What are they?
I've been told I'm unapproachable at times, which is funny. But at the same time, I think that is a misconception. But I think when people finally, speak to me, they realize I'm not unapproachable. So just trying to be more welcoming. I don't care if I'm an assistant coach next 25 years, if I'm able to be a head coach, if I'm at a high school. I want people to always be able to think that they can come to me if they want information. At the same time, I like to have a good time. So I do think that some people probably think I'm not serious sometimes. And at the same time, it might be just sarcastic to see. I might be saying something to see how you react. Because as a former player, like I did to my teammates, if I can get on the Shaq Harrison scheme today in practice, I'm gonna do it. I learned that from Steve Woodbury, because guess what? The other team is gonna get on the Shaq Harrison scheme that easy too. And I would tell them, like, if I'm able to get on your scheme, there's gonna be people out here in this world that's gonna pick at you, and you got to be able to hold that and react. But at the same time, it's all out of love. Like I said, I feed off seeing other people succeed. I think those are two perceptions that, can get confused at times. I think that there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, as my dad would say, and you can't be stubborn. You can't be stubborn in certain things, but you have to be stubborn in certain things in your life. But that's one thing. That's just me. That's just who I am. I will poke the bear and see, can I wake the bear up? And at the same time, I feel like I'm a bear too, and it's, at the same time, we can keep it going, and I can dish it out and I can take it, because I'm from Memphis, so that's just what we do anyways.
You don't want to be a hippo? Now that's an inside joke. Most people won't get that, but I'm sure a few people will. And it's funny you say something, because I always say, I say it all the time, you got an old soul. Even though, you're 7 years removed from Division I basketball, as a player. So you're under 30, right? And so you're old enough, you're young enough to understand what these guys, how they think, but you're old enough that you can teach them a lot of things. Like, what do you try to teach your players besides basketball?
Yeah, first of all, I think the reason that I'm how I am, because I tried to fight how my father was, and my dad. I'm exactly like my dad. I'm exactly like him, and everything. My dad's older than anybody's probably about to watch this. That's gonna watch this, So I was around him a lot. That was my coach, and like I said just a minute ago, I'm just trying to get guys to be tougher mentally and emotionally. I think the basketball will take care of itself when you get tougher than those two things, with the work ethic and all that type of stuff. Because at the end of the day, it's 4 years. It's hard to change a lot of habits in 4 years. But if you can help guys be a little bit more emotionally and mentally tough after 4 years, because they're gonna be citizens in this world. They're gonna be dads. They're gonna be husbands. And if they're not able to come to me right now about, Coach, why I'm not playing well, or Coach, what am I doing wrong, or Coach, they're not going to be able to talk to their wife about, hey, we're spending too much money here, and have those tough conversations later on down the line. You can't have a tough conversation now. You won't be able to have a tough conversation in a few years. It's going to be hard for you, because you have to. I think that's the biggest thing I'm trying to teach guys, is being able to project their words in a debate, not an argument. And understanding my perspective, and I understand every perspective. And when we go out this room, I'm going to come back tomorrow and coach you just as hard. I'm not going to treat you any different. And at the same time, if you're going through something, you can come to me. That's what I'm here for. Just getting guys to be able to open up a little bit, and just be better men and better human beings by the time they leave me. That's ultimately what I think. I think winning take care of yourself, and if those guys get better at that.
So true, man. Like, that's what people don't realize. Like, basketball, the most of your life, like, basketball is only a small portion. It's everything else, later on. That everything else down the road, it's college. I always say these are the 4 or 5 best years of your life. It's my job as a coach to, you did a great job. The parent did a great job of rearing their kid for 19, 19 years. Now my job this is the 4 or 5 most important years of their life. How they gonna get from young boy to a man? And I think we play as educators a huge part in that. And it is so important. When you talk about outside.
I'll go back in a heartbeat. I tell you that much. Hey, look, I'll go back to Tulsa, Oklahoma right now if they allow me to, and play 4 more years.
Yeah, that's how it is.
I want to go back with my teammates too. As good as we were, talk about with cost of attendance, and then they got NIL now. Oh man, my teammates would have been racking up out there, man. Shoot, I tell you, we had some characters, so I know for a fact we would have enjoyed every bit of it. So I would go back now in a heartbeat.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you on that. I'm gonna ask you this. You've been around some good coaches already.
Mhm.
A lot. I mean, now I'm gonna ask you if you had a chance to sit down, have lunch, breakfast, lunch, or dinner for 2 or 3 hours with, three guys. And this number is hard because you always want to pick somebody's brain. If you had a chance to sit down with 2 or 3 guys just to see what makes them tick, what's made them successful, in this game, who would you want to sit down with? And just, of course, you're going to leave some people out. But who would you
Yeah.
say, man, I'm picking these 3 guys right here. I want to sit down and talk to them.
I'm not worried about hurting anybody's feelings because it is what it is, man. It's a part of it. Somebody's feelings will be hurt. So I'm gonna pick people that I don't know. To be honest, I would probably gotta have somebody that can. I would probably do John Chaney because I would say John Chaney because I'm from Memphis and of course I'm a Memphis guy, so I would love to hear about him and those rivalries. I would definitely love to hear, man. That's really hard. So I'm gonna say John Chaney. I'm gonna say Monty Williams because I've been following him since I was younger when he before the OKC when he had CP3 as a rookie when he was a young head coach the first time. And then I'm gonna go Don Staley.
Those are 3 people I like. I mean, you know what? They're all different. But you know what? They're all winners. They're all about people. Like it's interesting you said it because that's who you are. They're all like about building the person, and like that. Those are 3 interesting people. Like, and I always say this today. That I could care less if I stepped on people's feelings. I think Don Staley is the most powerful person for an African American in college athletics right now. Like that's my. I mean, she says what she.
So much swag and confidence, win, lose, or draw. Just because I do admire her confidence and her swagger and how she can dominate a room. Her presence when she walk in, no matter how short she is or whatever it is, she walk in, everybody's gonna look probably more like everybody gonna look and be like, that's Don Staley.
She's our John Chaney, John Thompson, Nolan Richardson, like that. I mean, like I know, we always talk, we want these people to do it. Like Don Staley can do it. And like you said, she walks in the room, it's her presence speaks. She is a very powerful woman. I don't even know if she knows that at times how powerful she is, but she is. I'm a member in an organization with her, 12 inches over, and like just to hear her speak sometime, like you're like, wow, it's just tremendous. How that is. I like to ask this. You probably seen some wild things. What is the strangest thing a player has done outside of the basketball court? You just sat there and was like, wow, I can't believe that this even happened.
Man.
We always hear the wildest stories at junior college and stuff like that. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll go back to college when I played. Like, this is how wild it was. Because first of all, I had a teammate, we call him Big E. And he was from Nigeria, about 7'1". Had to wear elbow pads in practice because nobody wanted to get hit in the head, have a concussion. But he had to wear volleyball knee pads because they couldn't find anything big enough for his arms. So that alone is how big of a human he was. I remember one day he was 100% Nigerian, like that. He's from there. He committed on his visit, not knowing the name of the school. He just loved being around us and hanging out. Didn't even know the name of the school. And and so he gets there and he's like, man, he don't know how to drive a car. He buys a car. with his first check, buy a car, buy Expedition. And he goes to the country in Oklahoma and buys a goat, man. like when I say, like, me and my teammates was like, what are you gonna do with it? He broke his neck, dude. Dude, he cleaned it and ate it. Like, when I tell you, dude, like, being a kid from the city and having all these young guys on my team, and it was like, I can't see anything else that ever throw me off, man. Like, and he's one of the best dudes in the world, man. Like, one of the best, but like, you know, like, that's where, like, I think perspective for me started to get even grow even more, because like that's what he doing. That's what he do where he from. He go find it and but he clean it and he does it and he did all of it, and he made rice and we had fun. Like, I didn't eat any, but at the same time, I just be like, he probably think the same thing about us when we go do things as well about something that we do. But he's married now. He got citizenship. He's like, but I don't think his wife probably allowed him to do what he did in college. But to see that as a kid, I was the oldest guy on the team. Probably not. He probably was the oldest guy on the team, but he was a freshman. But at the same time, when he did that, man, it threw everybody off, man. But we all knew, like, all right, if we ever got in the scuffle, we need to have him on our team. You know, thankfully he with us. But that's probably the weirdest, most unique thing I've ever seen in college basketball. And it didn't come in coaching. And it didn't come back. So it's not a lot these guys can do to throw me off.
Yeah, that one kind of just threw me off. I didn't expect that one. Like, wow. Yeah, that's entertaining right there. That is entertaining.
100%.
Like I said, young career. What's the biggest accomplishment like you've experienced since you become a college coach?
To be honest, I can say the Greensboro stuff. That was great to be a part of. I can say junior college getting Chipola to a state state qualifying for the first time in a few years. But I'm gonna go back to D2 with Missouri Western. It haven't been to the NCAA tournament in 12 plus years, especially through COVID. Trial and tribulation. At the time we got COVID, it caught up with us because we started off 10-0. We was a top 25 team. And you lose 7 in a row, and then you every game you play after that means something. And the guys found a way to get in, and we got into the tournament. Even though we didn't win a game, for us to have an opportunity to do that for that program for the first time in a long time, finished for the first time in the top 3 in the league in, I think, probably almost 15 years. That's probably the greatest accomplishment as a coach that I've been a part of, because I felt like I had a lot more to do with it, because it was only three of us in the staff plus a GA, so we had to do a lot with those guys to get them guys to believe in us. That's probably last year is probably one of the most fulfilling years in my coaching career so far.
And you got to be the head coach one game. And like, I felt like I was on the ride with you. Like, I think I was with you on this ride.
Yeah, dude.
It seemed like you talked almost like every game.
Yep. I had COVID, man. Like, one of my best scouts I wasn't even there to see it. I wasn't even there to see it, man. One of my best scouts. I was literally, I had to learn. That's where I actually learned how to project a lot of my thoughts to other people. Because I'm not there to physically show them. I had to do it through a phone, and I think I got better, even though it was really hard. It was frustrating, but it really taught me a lot about the perseverance and toughness part of the game, and being able to express what I think we need to do as a team adjustment wise through a phone. That's all I have, and go that way.
What movie or TV show title best describes your week a lot of times? What movie or TV show title would you say?
Man, look, it's funny that you asked this, because I think I've been living this movie my entire life. It's 100% the Wood with big, and I'm 100% Big Mike. 100%. Like I'm Big Mike. Like that's. I think I've been living. And it's funny. Me and my teammates watched that movie in high school every day before games. Like before every game, we watched it before every game. And it's funny because like Mike moved a lot. He moved a lot, and I've moved a lot. But he always have these two guys, you know, 2-3 guys that he always can go back to now when he finally. And that's kind of how my life's been going, man. It's literally, I feel like I get a little bit of some of everybody's something, and they come to me. I don't ask them to come. I just feel like they, you know, I'm the ear that they trust, and I'm 100% the Wood and Big Mike.
Big Mike. I like that.
Yeah.
Look, what's your favorite word or phrase? Like, everybody knows mine. Everybody like to make a joke about it. But what's your favorite word or phrase?
Man, I have, and if anybody that knows me, I have so many. I can't pick one because I can't think of it. Most of them come off the top of my head. So like, I'm pretty quick with it. But this is for my dad because I've started to do it a little bit. And I say absolutely. And it started with me making fun of him. And now I do it when I'm talking to people. So like that, me making fun, like I said, I've tried to fight being like my dad, because my dad's a really great guy. My dad did a lot for me with my personality, but at the same time, I try to fight it. I don't want to be none like, I want to be better than I'm like, but now that I'm getting to the age now where your personality is what it is, I don't fight it anymore. I used to make everything I used to make fun of them on, I do. So, so like now it's like I have so many sayings that I can't remember them. And it's the same thing with him. And so I'm gonna say absolutely, because I do catch myself like, now my dad say that. I stop saying that, you know. So that I'll say that.
Absolute. I'm gonna ask you this. Now you kind of made me change it up a little bit. And it may be him or maybe not, but like, what person and or event has had the most influence on your life?
To go back, I remember like my mom and dad, they're great influence, but my mom and dad, that's like easy for me. But I remember my Aunt Ada, she passed away. Her and my Uncle Charles and my mother's older brother and sister, they passed away. And my Aunt Ada used to always kill me for how I spoke. I spoke too fast. She always tell me, slow down when you talk. And she would literally make me stop and re-say everything I said all the time. And I never did until I got to college. When Doug Wojcik he told me, you can't do interviews talking like that. Nobody understood anything you said. And it made me remember she was right. So now when I speak, I kind of, other than when I get excited, I slow down, and it's because of her. She was probably one of the most influential people ever in my life. And then my Uncle Charles kind of put me in this perspective of, I am what I am. He was out there in the sanitation marching like that. That's him doing that. Kind of put like some pride in me about even though my last name, my dad's last name, I have his blood in me. It made me have some pride about my family and where I come from. So those two people are very, very influential in my life, and what they did, and the laughs, and the, like, even though I wasn't around out of 13 years of my life, like I remember every moment. Like that's how I met one of your people. You work with Brian Stiff. I have a picture of him when I was a baby, because she was able to have tournaments and camps for people for IMG. When I was a kid, I would go, and so that's where my relationship started way before I got into this thing, way before.
Wow, that's great, man. Uncle and aunt. I mean, a lot of times people don't realize. I mean, you talked about like what they did and how they influenced you. I thought that was awesome. But what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
it's funny because it might be from one of my recruiting trips, one of my first recruiting trips, and it's come from CY, and he said, "He who controls the narrative is king." and the first person that always popped in my mind when I heard it, it's only one. It's LeBron James. He controls every narrative. If you look back at everything he's ever done, he controls all the narratives that he's ever been a part of, and that's why I think, like, that's why I can honestly say now, yeah, he's king. Like, he's king of the basketball world. Like, he is that. But at the same time, it's the same thing with my religion and everything. Like, the Lord and Savior, he controls every narrative. He knows everything that's about to happen. He's already done. And that's why I think he's king. So that's why I believe that. So it all is comes back to full circle, and I try to control my own narrative in my life.
The great CY with great knowledge dropping there.
Yeah, always. Hey, he got jewels for you. If you ever on the road,
definitely has that.
If you're a young dude on the road, man, if you don't shake that dude's hand, I feel bad for you, man. Like, you wrong. That's the guy you need to talk to.
Yes, it is. What does success mean to you? Because a lot of people get caught up in wins and losses, and I've heard you say success a few times now. But, like, what does success mean to you?
Success to me, talking about for me individually.
Yes.
Success for me, honestly, is probably being able to help as many people get a step closer to where they want to go. Because I don't think I have any power to help people get there and reach it, but I think I can also help as many people probably take a step forward towards it. And I think when I see people take a step forward, that's in their game, that's in their life, that's in whatever it is. I get excited, and it gives me some juice to be able to keep going, because if that I'm able to help you get a little bit closer to where you want to get to, I've done my job in this world.
I mean, that's like, and I'm glad. Like, it doesn't mean wins and losses. And a lot of times that's what people think. You know, you got to win so much, but like you said, and that's why the people I like having on this show are selfless people, and it's all about helping others. And that's an important statement right there. You're not and leading to the next question. You're not a self-promoter. You're a humble person. You're always giving. If you had to choose 3 adjectives to describe yourself, which would you choose?
It's funny. I don't know, because I kind of I let people kind of decide what they think of me and let them have their perception of me, I guess. And I don't know. But so I'm gonna say adjectives. I'm gonna say fun, caring, passionate. That's that. But I kind of let everybody else have their own perception of me, and it is what it is. I've gotten to the point now in my life and age. Who cares what people think? You know, you just have fun. I have fun. I know for a fact I'm gonna have fun every day I wake up. And that's why I love the staff that I'm with. Even the staff when I was at Martin for 14 days, like, we had fun. Like, my JUCO staff, I had fun. I had fun in Greensboro. Like, I've been blessed and selfish. I've been spoiled, been around really good people that allowed me to be me and not try to change who I am. So
anyone that doesn't know him, he does like having fun. He's one of the funniest people you would love to be around. It's hilarious because he's gonna keep you laughing all the time, but he also is about business at the same time. What energizes you and brings you excitement? Like you just talked about, like, you like having fun. You always, I could, like, on the basketball court, I've a couple of times I've seen you, like, but what energizes you and brings you excitement?
When I played, what brought me excitement was the opportunity to compete. I think competing was really, really fun. And it's funny because when I was at Tulsa, they played Michael Jackson right on the wall when I used to warm up. For me, I was like the only song I'm like, yo, we're playing that, but like that got me to relax because it's a very intense situation. So that made it that, and then now what gets me going is honestly what gets me going is the dudes I work with, because I know that every day they're gonna come in. It's a new day. I played for Coach Manning. Win or loss at midnight, it's washed, whatever you're doing. So like you have to come back with something to get it back going. And then the guys I work with now, they're the same way. If we have a bad day, or we get a phone call about a recruit that we don't want, that they don't want to be around us, you know, that they don't want to come, it's washed. You got to move on and keep pushing and have some fun. And all right, that's fine. He did us a favor. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. And it's never a dull moment around here, if that's for sure. And you better be able to take it and dish it out and not be in your feelings, because like if you catch in your feelings, man, it's like, yo, like what's going on? Because this is not the principal's office. This is where we have fun. This is where we want our guys to feed off us, to show them that, man, men can have some fun at work as well.
And I like to end with this question. I think it's important to know where you're going before you know where you've been before you know where you're going. Mm-hmm. Even though you're living in the present. Like, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self to prepare for, as a coach?
What I would say, tell my younger self to prepare myself for coaching. Don't fight it. Don't fight it, because my dad was a coach. My mother's father was a neighborhood coach. And I want to be on ESPN, man. I want to be Stuart Scott. I want to be that guy. Like that's what I want to be, and I fought it. And I think that if I didn't fight it, as a younger player, I think I would have been a better player. Because I think that's why we had so much more success my last 2 years. I think I had personally more success because I didn't fight. I embraced being the coach on the floor a lot more than I did as a younger player. Because as a young player, you want to be, I'm going to the NBA, or I'm going to make this money and play forever. And I think I probably would have been a better player if I would have watched as much film as I did my last 2 years, or if I would have been able to be more strategic about how I worked out my last 2 years than I did my first as well.
I mean, that's interesting you say that about not fighting it. I think I fought it for 3 years, before getting in it. Like, everybody kept telling me, oh, you're a coach. And I'm like, no, I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just said it, like, no, everybody tells you around you, I think you're a coach, and you don't want to believe it, because you like, nah, that's not what I want to do. But then you get called back in because that's what you were supposed to do. So I definitely feel you on that. Well, look, man, Tim, I want to thank you again, man, for being a guest on the show and being unmasked. Anything you want to leave with the people before we go?
No, I just want to say I appreciate it. I thank you. I know my relationship here and with the guys that's been on before me, it's really helped me. I enjoy watching some of the guys, and it's funny because I speak to some of them on the road about it. I've wrote them letters, and I'll tell anybody that's trying to get in this business, or somebody that's young in it already, you can't get where you want to go having a closed mouth. You can't get where you want to go. Don't think any of us or anybody in this business is too big time for you. Make those guys prove that they're too big time for you. Like make them prove that. Because at the same time, yeah, we have a busy schedule, but at the same, we're human. We're people that's in this business for 20 plus years. It's not just because they get wins and losses, because they're good people. That somebody had to help them. Somebody had to take a gamble on them as well. So I'll tell every young guy in this business, man, feel free to reach out to me, reach out to people that's way smarter than me, people that reach out to people and go up and shake their hand, or right now fist pound them, but at the same time, I don't ever be afraid to get outside your comfort zone and do that, because it can help. You never know who wants to be around you. You never know.
some powerful words right there to leave, man. And I appreciate all of that. And like I said, I appreciate you taking your time. I know you just got off the road for the last 3 weeks, and then you jump out of a workout, and so after the workout, and you come on. So we were talking, yesterday as you was going back, and I said, "Yo, man, you got to come on the show." He's like, "I'm there tomorrow," so I appreciate that a ton. But I want to thank you, viewers, for watching another great show, and I want you to stay tuned for the next guests as we get them unmasked. See you next time, and stay safe.